Hey, welcome back to the Disney Plus Everyday Challenge, and today we have Indiana Jones and the Raiders of the Lost Ark, formerly known as just Raiders of the Lost Ark, before George started renaming a lot of stuff, or Disney, technically. In order to keep everything similar, they put Indiana Jones and the, because that's they did with Last Crusade and the Temple of Doom and Crystal Skull and Dial of Destiny, so you might as well make Raiders of the Lost Ark, the original. And who knew back then that this would grow into a gigantic franchise that would span 40 years? How many years is it? 23 minus 40, yeah, 23, it's over 40 years. It's 42 years. 42 years. That's pretty amazing. This is 1981. It's an hour and 57 minutes long. This is an action-adventure film directed by Steven Spielberg, written, created by him and George Lucas, screenplay by Lawrence Kasdan, who also did the ILM Light and Magic documentary series that we watched a few days ago. What else? Directed by Steven Spielberg. Did I say that? Yeah, Steven Spielberg. Music by John Williams. By the way, I know how good John Williams' music is in any film he does. Any film. But this has got to be one of my favorites. It's just so well done. And you got to understand that this is a film brought out in the 80s that does not feel like an 80s movie. It is meant to evoke the films that George grew up on. George primarily, but also Stephen, grew up on. The serialized films back in the 50s, I want to say, because he's always, he grew up in the 50s. So you would watch these adventure films, whether it's Zorro or Flash Gordon or all these different types of heroic figures, and it'd be a different adventure each week. Or each time they brought out a new installment, and George wanted to create an original character very much in the spirit of those old films. And some of them were much older than, of course, the 50s, but it's still the idea that these were adventures that people used to listen to on the radio and then eventually made it into film. And we eventually got that in television to a certain degree, whether it's George Reeves' Superman or it's just superheroes and then cowboys and stuff like that. That kind of stuff all translated pretty well into television back in the day. But George wanted to do it in a way that evoked the styles and the feel of a 1930s adventure serial, but of course, was done with the effects, with the help of ILM, with the help of just done in a Steven Spielberg kind of way. Now, while I watched this again for the first time in a while, and I know every sound, every image, every line, every action piece, it never fails to thrill. It never fails to. I try to put it on like in the background while I'm working on other stuff. No, that's not gonna happen. No work's getting done. No work's getting done at all. Because I figure I can do this and put it on the background because I've seen this like 1,000 times. It takes up all the oxygen in the room. Basically, I have to focus on it, and it's the music. Even when you're not looking at it, the music tells you what's going on. The funny thing is, though, what I did notice about that, the iconic fanfare, the heroic fanfare we have for Indiana Jones, dun 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 dun. That part, first time we hear it in the film is when Indy's running. He's reached the end of the large open area when he's running from the natives who are trying to kill him after he's stolen. Well, he tried to steal the idol, but spoilers, Belloc took it from him. As he's trying to escape, he tries to grab a vine and swing, evoking Tarzan, also an old serial. As he grabs onto that vine, you hear the dun 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 dun, and he promptly falls into the water. Doesn't get very far. It's not very heroic at all. And I was surprised at how sparingly John used that. It's in the most important moments, but it's still, he uses it sparingly throughout the film, and so much of his soundtrack is it's so engaging. Even if you were blind, if you were not looking at this at all, you'd still be entertained by it. I'm pretty dang sure. One of my favorite parts of this that proves how good John Williams and how essential John Williams' music is the truck chase. The truck chase where Indy is following on horseback after a truck that contains the Ark of the Covenant. Spoilers. This movie is more than 40 years old, so yeah. He gets in the truck. There's a fist fight in the cabin. There's Nazis coming from both sides. He's having fun just crashing into trees, just swiping some trees and knocking the guys off. But eventually he reaches a guy who I think is also the guy who actually does this under the truck stunt. I'm pretty sure. I'm not sure, but I'm just going to say that might be the same guy. But he fights a great stunt guy whose name slips my mind, and it makes for a thrilling battle. But it's a long sequence. But John Williams' music so freaking good throughout it, and it's hard to just go, well, that's great music. You have to just rewatch that scene again. If you're not going to watch the whole movie, just that scene, you'll understand. The great thing about this is even though it's almost 2 hours long, it moves. One of the things that you might wonder is, like, will this movie from the 80s, which evokes serials from the 50s, that tells stories in the 30s, does it stand up in 2023 and beyond? Absolutely. Absolutely. Maybe, yeah, sure, nostalgia plays a part in this. I watched this as a kid. I was so into this film. Of course, obviously I was going to watch it because I love Star Wars, and the guy who made Star Wars and the guy who made Close Encounters and Jaws, they're making a movie together. Oh yeah, I'm going to go see that. So yeah, of course I saw it, and it became part of my DNA almost to the point that Star Wars did. Yes, I did own a whip at one point as a child. You would be, for those of you who did not live through it, you'd be disturbed how many, I'm assuming your parents, if you weren't around then, how many of your parents owned whips as children or as teenagers because of this film. Yeah. Leather rawhide whip, and I am lucky to have two eyes today. Yeah. Two working eyes. Yeah. You go outside, you try to do it inside, you get your butt whooped. Not with a whip, though, thankfully. The goal was just to make that whip crack. And, yeah, that was... You felt like the hero. You felt like the adventurer. One of the great things about this, why it holds up, is not just because, Harrison Ford is just perfection in this. And this is why, as long as any of us who are alive right now, as long as Harrison Ford's alive, Steven Spielberg, George Lucas, and anybody who was alive when this came out, there's a reason why no one else will ever play Indiana Jones as an adult. Yes, other people have played Indiana Jones, especially in the Young Indiana Jones Chronicles. Even in Last Crusade, River Phoenix played him as a young boy, as a young man, I should say. But yeah, we've had different people play Indiana Jones, but the core Indiana Jones character that we have all aged with, it can be no one else than Harrison Ford, because he plays, yes, the hero, but he's really flawed. He does not act or feel or do the things that every hero does. He is pretty much out for himself. He is a scoundrel, even more so than Han Solo. The very first time we meet Marion Ravenwood, which we realized pretty quickly they had a relationship that did not go well. She makes some very strong accusations that would make anybody of us go, this guy's not a good guy. Today we were like, this is not a good guy to women. And even later in the film, when he realizes that she's alive after thinking she's dead, and he's ready to untie her and rescue her, he thinks twice and goes, nah, I'm going to put the gag back on and keep you tied up. Because to free you, which is the normal hero thing to do, like, we got to get you out of danger, the thing would be like, oh, if I get you out of here, they'll come looking for me. They'll come looking for anybody who may have released you. And he leaves her tied up in the hands of the enemy, in the hands of Nazis. And Belloc, who is a French collaborator and also the Euro version of, the rich Euro version of Professor Henry Jones Jr. Yeah. So, does this hold up for people who are not my age? Yes, absolutely. Actually, Karen Allen, Marion, appeared at a movie theater in my hometown not too long ago, or maybe it's happening this weekend. I'm not sure. I don't know. When it happened, I'm not home, so I didn't get to experience it. I think it happened last week. They played it. Oh yeah, it happened last week because friends of mine sent pictures of them taking their kids to see Indiana Jones on the big screen, Raiders of the Lost Ark on the big screen. When they said, "Hey, we're going to take you to see this movie from the 1980s about Raiders of the Lost Ark," the kids' first question, yes, they were probably about the same age I was when I saw Indiana Jones. Their first question was, "Is it in black and white?" Because it's super old. It's over 40 years old. It's got to be in black and white, right? Yeah. It's just, I tried to find my normal goal is to find something good to say about anything I watch on Disney Plus. I actually had a hard time finding anything negative to say about this film. Yeah, you know what? There's a little nitpicky things. How did he survive on a sub outside of the sub, going from one place to another? I don't know. Maybe he wasn't underwater that long. I don't understand that. There's certain little nitpicky tiny things that don't really matter in the greater scheme of things. But you know what? It's all right. It's all right. It doesn't detract from the film. And part of me, now that I'm thinking of it right now, I almost wonder what it would feel like if they chopped this up into vignettes, like 10, 15-minute serial things. And I think they might have even structured this film to be able to do that, even though they haven't done that. But I wonder if I could chop this up and, continued next time, like the next chunk of scenes, like that whole truck chase thing would be its own scene in a sense, its own not 15 minutes, but it seems longer than it is, and it's a good longer, not a bad longer, not like, oh, when will this end? It is super freaking great. Yeah, this is a classic for a reason. The directing, like I said, it doesn't necessarily feel fully like a Steven Spielberg film, because Steven Spielberg has these sort of tricks that he does when it comes to certain things. You'll recognize it in most of his films, certain types of shots he does. And they're there, but I think a lot of them are superseded by his willingness to create the feel of an old serial. So it's a mishmash. It's more Spielberg in the action sequences, I think. I could be completely wrong. Yes, there's going to be a film guru out there who's going to go, "Oh, you're completely wrong. You got it all backwards." I see what I see. And yeah, I don't want to overanalyze this, because this is the kind of movie that you can just sit back, relax, and don't analyze it. It doesn't need to be analyzed. I know there's people out there who exist to crap on every Star Wars or Star Trek or anything, this Marvel DC film that comes out these days. It's like that's how they get their clicks and hits and whatever else, and they get YouTube rich because they are just big complainers about minutia. But yeah, like I said, I can't find anything in the greater scheme of things that could be wrong with this. Yes, there are people that have asserted that technically Indiana Jones could be taken out of this film and it would have ended the same way. I mean, he contributes nothing to the film. That is a thing you can find. You can search that right now. Somebody has, just Google it, and somebody has proposed that every single thing along the way that happened was going to happen no matter what, whether Indiana Jones was there or not. Now, this is assuming that Indiana Jones, if he wasn't there, that the Nazis would have still found the Ark, the Lost Ark of the Covenant. But that's, if they kept digging, eventually they'd find it. The war might be over, but somebody would find it eventually, I guess, with all the map room and the pole and everything else. It's, in the end, yes, Nazis lose, but yeah, take Indy out of it, it still ends the same. But you know what? It wouldn't be as fun. It would be zero fun, I think. I'm pretty sure. Like I said, Karen Allen, Harrison Ford, John Rhys-Davies as Sala, Paul Freeman as Belloc. You might recognize him. He shows up in Star Wars as well, in a small role as an Imperial. I forget the Imperial officer's name. The Star Wars nerds out there know who I'm talking about. Ronald Lacey. Oh, and I just got to mention the very beginning. You know how Indiana Jones hates snakes. The very beginning, it's almost perfect scene. If the movie was just the first 10 minutes, it would still be a freaking amazing movie. It introduces us to the character, but not for a little bit. We just see a bunch of guys in a jungle making their way to a place that I imagine there's a great treasure. Eventually, it comes down to just Indy and his assistant, Satipo. And as they're going through the cave, Indy, there's a giant spider on my shoulder. His Satipo turns around, and he's just covered. His back is covered in them. And it's good to know that Satipo is played by Alfred Molina, which, yeah, I know, Indiana Jones and Star Wars fans, everybody knows that it's Alfred Molina. But some of you may not. Alfred Molina, who's that? Oh, he's Dr. Octopus. He's Dr. Octopus in Spider-Man 2 and also Spider-Man No Way Home. He reprised the role. So, and maybe that's where he got his first distaste for spiders. I don't know. All the way back in 1981 in Indiana Jones, in Raiders of the Lost Ark. So yeah, that opening sequence, it gave me a love for creating. I love to draw little maps of little caverns and things like that, and put little booby traps and things like that. I was just a very introverted nerd who liked to draw little elaborate Rube Goldberg type things. It was some crazy weird stuff that I made as a kid. I should have dug some of that out to show you, but it wouldn't make a difference. Who cares? So, but yeah, it's just that opening sequence has to draw you in. If that opening moment with, the boulder and everything else does not draw you into this movie and say, I want to keep following what this guy does, even after they jump back and go, oh, wait, he's not just a guy in a leather jacket and a fedora who travels to the jungle. By the way, that has to be hot to wear in a jungle. That is, who wears a leather jacket and a fedora run into the jungle? That just seems like a bad choice. It's early 1900s. That sounds older than it really should. But he's a school teacher. He's a hunky school teacher where pretty girls in class write "love you" on their eyelids to profess their love for him. So yeah, he's a multifaceted character, and the great thing is this movie is so good at reveals. I wanted to say this earlier, but this movie is so good at first revealing Indiana Jones, first revealing Marion Ravenwood, and also revealing Indiana Jones to Marion Ravenwood in shadow, projected against a wall. And we actually hear his name, Indiana Jones, I believe, from Marion Ravenwood in that moment. While he's a professor, yet he's Dr. Jones to his friend and to the students, whatever else. But we do not hear, I don't think we hear the name Indiana Jones until Marion Ravenwood says, Indiana Jones. So, yeah, that's kind of some great reveals. Some great moments. Tote walking through the door of the bar, that kind of thing. All these different moments are just perfection. So, the next one we're going to watch, and I don't know why I picked this up because I'm not going to do a random check. I already know what I'm watching tomorrow because we're doing all the Indiana Jones films back to back, day after day after day, leading up to the Dial of Destiny. So tomorrow we have Indiana Jones and the Temple of Doom. It came out like 3 years after that. And yeah, Indiana Jones and the Temple of Doom, which to some friends of mine is their favorite. Yet it's Steven Spielberg's least favorite. And I'm going to say that again tomorrow, but anyway, tomorrow, Indiana Jones and the Temple of Doom on the next Disney Plus Everyday Challenge. I'll see you back here tomorrow with that.